Hi, I'm Mark Scher. I'm the CEO and founder of Encompass Life and the host of the Encompassing Life podcast. Today we have Dr. Ming on the phone. Yes?
Yes,
No,
Dr. Min, how are you?
Dr. Ming. And he's in San Diego, from what I understand. Beautiful day out there. Very interesting type of a dentist here. He has a personality. He loves technology. He loves dentistry. So he has merged those two things together. And he has some special things that he did in his past life we'll get on as we move forward with the podcast. But Dr. Ben, thank you so much for being on the call, and it's a pleasure getting to know you, sir.
It's a pleasure being here.
Awesome. So you were sharing with some of the new tools you have that you said maybe only a handful of dentists are using those. Is that only a handful of dentists using those in your area, or a handful of dentists using this level of technology throughout the United States?
Well, right now, and I was expressing before, dentistry is moving. It always had rapid speeds of technology. For the dentist side, we were able to, about 18, 20 years ago, produce crowns within the hour by imaging and by having it like a CNC printer. Now we 3D print. But the coolest thing about the whole evolution of it is in hygiene, we were very limited to what we could do for you as a patient. So it's a handful in San Diego, and I think it's a handful nationwide because it's kind of technology's been there for a while, but it hasn't been as good as it is today. And it's called Guided Biofilm Therapy. And the whole premise of when you go to your hygienist and do a cleaning is that we're trying to get you as healthy as possible. We're trying to remove bacteria as much as possible. And as great as any hygienist is, we have now the ability to remove even more biofilm from your teeth than ever before. So when you come in our office, we're able, and when you leave, we're actually able to remove like over 90% of biofilm. The biofilm not only stays on your teeth, but it's also a little bit 4 or 5 millimeters below the gum. And before, when we try to go below your gum, as any person will tell you, it'll hurt. You'll jump through the roof as if we're torturing you. This is airflow. It's pretty much painless. And when we're going to put a disclosing solution on your mouth, on your teeth, and we can actually tell you if the plaque that you had formed was there for 48 hours, 24 hours, or just a few hours. So we can also evaluate how well you've been brushing the last few weeks, few days. So, but I said with so much of the health issues going on with inflammation, with controlling diabetes, worrying about cardiovascular disease, knowing that there's a system now called Guided Biofilm Therapy that can remove 90 or more % of your bacterial biofilm, that's literally the key. And not a lot of dentists are investing in it because, one, to be quite fair, it's a little costly. But for us, what we always ask ourselves, can we buy something that's going to improve the patient's quality of life? And this is the first time I've ever seen something in hygiene that I can honestly tell you it will improve your life. You'll feel cleaner coming out of the office, but you'll also feel cleaner 2, 3, 4, 5 days later because it'll take longer for your biofilm to form back on your teeth.
And is the cleaning costly to do, or is it the same?
No, it's be the same. For us, it's a little more involved, but like I said, it's airflow. And what's also great is you'll actually have a less painful experience. I mean, usually hygienists are very good at what they do, any hygienist, and we try to make it as pain-free as possible. Now it's really almost pain-free. It's airflow. We can remove the biofilm, and your teeth will feel a lot squeakier clean than you ever had in your life.
So if you have like plaque that's really caked up there, will this remove that caked up plaque?
So the great thing is when we remove some of the heavier plaque, it'll loosen up some of the biofilm so that even if we had come in a little bit with ultrasonic, it comes off way easier. So we're not chiseling, we're not like digging in there to remove it. The airflow will actually make it a lot easier for us to remove. So that's what I'm saying. It's be a lot less painful for you as a patient in our office.
Awesome. Yeah, I had read an article about the bacteria in your mouth can create heart issues as well, and you were explaining to me that the same thing, that the plaque that you have formed in your teeth, they found in the arteries of your heart. It starts building up plaque down there as well.
Absolutely, but everything that we know about health now is inflammation, inflammation, inflammation. If your body's inflamed, doesn't matter whether it be in your mouth, whether it be in your legs, it's not a good thing. Your body's going to send out the same markers that fight infections. So we do know, like I was telling you, with anyone who has diabetes, we do know someone who has out of control periodontal disease. It's very hard to control your sugar level, your A1C level. So we can remove some more bacteria. We can reduce the inflammation process. Your body's going to heal better. Certain bacteria, we have seen some correlations where it helps in the coagulation of in your arteries. We found like some of the periodontal disease bacteria in the same areas that we see plaque formations in your heart, in your vessels. So by us being able to remove it early in your mouth, we're not going to expose more that same bacteria into your bloodstream. So it's more for long-term health. So when we see people with chronic vascular disease, plus there's other issues with any bacteria that's in your mouth. And like I said, once you remove the bacteria, you're going to decrease the inflammation in your mouth. You're going to decrease the inflammation in your whole body. Your body will function better.
That makes sense. And all this information. They used to talk about. I remember when I was a kid, I was reading paper. They said 90-something% of all disease was caused by stress. Well, if somebody's stressed, their body's in a state of tension or inflammation just from emotional, and then all the chemistry the body's building up is toxic to the system, and the body's trying to fight its own buildup of chemicals, so then it can't address toxins coming in from the outer world, So
absolutely, like I was expressing to you, I went to school and I have a degree in biochemistry genetics. I got a master's degree in microbiology, bacteriology. So I try to put it all together to try to give the patient the most comprehensive healthcare I can possibly do. And the one thing that's underlining issues on whether you take medicines or not take medicine, if you can reduce inflammation, your body will receive, if you have to take medicine, your body will receive the medicine better. As long as your body's inflamed, it will fight inflammation just as much as it'll fight it in your arm or your leg. And it's not a good process. Everything is connected, as everybody knows. Every cascade is connected. And if you have a cascade where it's just your body's overreacting to inflammation, your body cannot fight anything if it's inflamed.
Right. Yep. And so you said you and your wife started the business about 18 years ago?
18 years ago, we used to actually work together in a dental office, and we just realized that we wanted something a little more personal where we can interact with our patients. We can create a family environment, not only with our patients, but with our own staff. So my wife's the hygienist. She's also, as people say in my office, she's also the boss. I just work for her. But yeah, so it's been a very good relationship for 18 years. So
that's generally how successful relationships work. She's the boss. I agree. I'm in a similar relationship as well, and I'll tell you, it's made a huge difference in my life. Being with somebody who's consistent and we're both on the same page. Here's what we're doing with our lives. It makes a huge difference. It makes things really easy. So
yeah, and it's also nice knowing, for example, once we thought about this guided biofilm therapy, there was some hesitation, but once we saw it together and what we saw the benefit that it could give a person health-wise,
right.
Anything you decide in dentistry, there's always a cost, but the benefits outweigh the cost by 100-fold. Yeah, I can really definitively tell you when you walk out of our office in hygiene, I think we've done something incredibly for you.
Awesome. So how do you go do things together if you shut down the office, or you have days?
But yeah, that's always the problem. We try to take one week off a year together. Plus, we as a staff, we will go to different. We went to Vegas last year. We've gone cruises together. Like I said, our staff is our family. They've seen my children grow up. I've seen their children grow up. So we try to be together as much as possible. I mean, I probably have spent more time with my staff than probably they spent with their own spouses, for sure.
Right.
But we're a family, we'll have the highs together and we'll have the lows together, but we try to spend a lot of time together, and it's a great bond. I mean, if you love your staff, you love where you work, it isn't work. It's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. That's you got to get everybody, you got to get the right people on the bus to decide where it's headed,
Absolutely. And like I said, I've been very blessed for 18 years. Most of my staff have been with me for greater than 10. And wow. We don't have turnaround, and it's a blessing for me personally.
That says you're doing something right, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this journey, and I've always told myself, look, this journey isn't just about me. It's about us. At the end of our journey as a dentist, we want to do great things for people, but we also want to do great things together. And I want you to have a better life, just like I want myself to have a better life. I cannot be the only guy rowing the boat. We're doing it together, and at the end, we're going to go somewhere very special.
Gotcha. And you were sharing with me that you were studying in New York, and you had an unusual life before dentistry. I mean, I would have never picked you doing which what you said you did. So can you share a little about this, to add to your personality and
Absolutely.
your
I was
playfulness, man?
I was going to grad school, and I had an opportunity to study swing dancing, jazz dancing at in Central Cameron in New York City. And it was the height of the swing revolution. I mean, you no matter where you went in New York, every club was open to swing and jazz. So for 10 years, I taught at Sandra Cameron Dance Center. We performed at Lincoln Center. We performed at every venue you can actually imagine in New York City. And that is actually one of the only reasons why I stayed in New York. I had other options to go to different dental schools. But for me at the time in 1997, it was just an amazing time to teach dance. I mean, like, for example, like you said, it's shocking for most people to realize, like, oh my God, you actually teach dancing, you can actually dance. So it was kind of like a secret life that I lived, but it was the greatest time of my life. To be able to perform and to teach hundreds and hundreds of people is like I said, it's also an incredible time in New York City to perform.
Yeah, so that's athletic. You gotta be athletic to do that. What was your background before you started teaching dance?
I mean, all my life, I've done some form of martial arts or somewhat, and I played tennis since I was 5 years old. But dancing it's a whole different, especially swing dancing, because you need a partner. It's about dancing with the partner. It's kind of like dancing to me kind of evolved to why in dentistry, like in a dentist, you have an assistant, you have a staff.
Right.
When you dance with someone that close, there's a bond that you must feel. You have to understand their feel, their rhythm, and everything about it. You can't just go on a dance floor and swing or Lindy hop by yourself. You need that partner. You need to have an understanding of that partner as soon as the music comes down, and you got to feel it together. So it's always that sense of what was really neat about swing dancing was that you had to try to learn the partner.
Yep.
And you had to always be aware of what was going on with her as the person who leads the dance. And I said one of the coolest things was for me was I spent a semester teaching at NYU School of Dance, and that was probably the greatest, coolest moment of my dance. Actually, as much as I performed in the other places, to stand in front of 30 or 40 kids who are probably more talented than you, get accepted to NYU, which is one of the hardest schools to get into dance.
Right.
And to be able to teach them Lindy hop and swing and jazz is actually one of the coolest things ever.
Awesome. Was your wife into it as well?
No, this is kind of like my life before I met my wife, before I had kids.
Yeah,
I feel like I literally have lived a very different life before I've ever met anybody.
Yeah. What type of martial arts did you do?
I've done Shotokan karate. I was very into the Japanese art, just also not because of the martial arts, but because the discipline of the Japanese system. I love judo. I love Shotokan, and currently, right now, I do jiu-jitsu with 10th Planet. I do a little bit of Krav Maga. It's kind of keeps me active. I like learning. I like pushing myself to doing something I'm probably not doing.
Great sports, man. Mental, physical discipline. Great sports.
Yeah, and with jiu-jitsu, as you know, it's
yeah.
No one's ever done jiu-jitsu. It's very, very humbling. If you want to humble yourself, take a class.
Yeah. A good friend of mine, female, was taking jiu-jitsu, and I was way stronger and way bigger than she was. She goes, let me show you something. I go, okay, let's try it. Man, it was in no time, man. She had me tapping quick. I said, okay, you got something here. Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same thing with when I was doing judo. It's like the whole philosophy of judo is a little man can beat big man. It's actually a little.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
there's a professional boxer who's really good at his trade, and his dad made him quit boxing for 2 years and just do dance.
Oh, wow.
To develop his footwork. And
I know you're not wrong.
Yeah, Lomachenko. Yep. And you watch him in the ring now, and opponent doesn't know where he is. He takes a step. He's already made 3 steps away from him and spins around and comes back against him. It's amazing how the dance has improved his boxing so much.
Well, I mean, when you're dancing, like I said, you got to know your partner. And I'm not a good boxer to say the least, but when you box, I mean, the person who you're dancing with is your opponent. You're kind of, but your job in boxing is obviously to dodge the opponent, but you're kind of dancing with him. You're kind of feeling what he does. You look at the shoulder moves. It's the same thing when you do dance. You look at the person's shoulder and it kind of tells you what the person wants to do, or their arm movements or Their footwork kind of tells you they're coming in, coming out, they're gripping you too tight. I mean, all of it, everything in life is kind of like similar in nature. Everybody works together.
His intuition, yeah, be able to apply them in the middle of a fight, especially under duress. Beautiful. Makes it look really easy. You said you're in Sorrento Valley, and you also have another location.
The other location is in Santee. It's called Brick Dental. It's a little bit east, so it allows me to treat a lot of people from the East County. So I'm kind of more North County, so it allows me to kind of have a wider group of patients I could treat.
You're the dentist in both of the locations, is that correct?
Yes.
Gotcha. Cool. And you said you had thought about expanding to other dentists in the past, but you have a particular way of doing things, and you have yet to find somebody. So you're the dentist that's doing both locations, correct, sir?
Yes.
And you said you've been looking for people in the past, but you have to find somebody who really shares your positions or your passion for the way you're doing dentistry. Maybe one day you'll get that and be able to take some time off with your wife and enjoy the fruits of your labor.
I mean that's the goal. But the truth is, any dentist will tell you. I mean, most of us love what we do. It's really actually it's an art form. It's kind of a hobby on its own. So
yes. So you really love so how did you get into dentistry anyway? What had you choose that career?
Actually, to be honest, I was quite afraid of dentistry. I'm still to this day. I could be the dentist, but I'm actually terrified to be the patient. And I just thought, well, if I'm terrified of it, I kind of want to learn about it. Plus, dentistry is really artful, like carving a teeth, carving a prep. It takes a lot of hand skills to do, and if there's a weird tranquility that happens when you cut a tooth.
Yeah.
It literally, it's like anyone who's ever done woodwork or done anything that requires your hands and eyes. It's an art form for sure. Dentistry is more an art than it is anything. It just comes with the business, but dentistry itself is an art.
Yeah, I've made knives and crafted knives, and that takes patience and doing that, or even I've done long distance shooting, and that's you got to control the breathing, make sure everything's, and get that round out, 500 to 1,000 yards. You got to be proficient at being able to control yourself. Yeah.
It's funny because I've shot several times at the range, or and people ask me, hey, how come you can shoot pretty well? I'm a dentist. My hands don't shake as much as you think. I mean, can you imagine if my hands shook? I wouldn't be able to shoot a gun. It's kind of weird, and you're right. And the same thing when you do dentistry, you actually have to focus on your breathing, because you'll find that you don't breathe. And as you know, as a person who shoots, there are times where you have to literally tell your brain, like, breathe. You're holding your breath.
Right.
So, so there's, like I said, it's kind of neat that everything has some commonality to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Holding your breath every time the heart beats, your hands shake.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyway, so how do people get in touch with you, sir?
Well, we're in San Diego. I said we're in the Sorrento Valley. It's called Sorrento Valley Dental Group. Or you can look up my name, Dr. Minh. And we'd love to have someone come in, but the most important thing is we want patients to actually want to focus on their health. That's the key to it.
So I have one.
Go ahead.
I have one parting question for you also, and my parting question is, what do you love about life?
The truth is, I've actually had a lot of blessings in my life. I've actually found someone 50 years ago, last week, a couple weeks ago, was the fall of Saigon. And my parents came here not knowing what life would ever be for them and trying to escape communism. It's a blessing every day I'm alive. I've been very blessed to be here. I'm very blessed to be in a country that allows my family and myself freedom to do whatever I want. There isn't a day that I take life for granted, because my parents almost had their life taken from them. So for me, I just love living the life I am living. Especially during COVID, what I realized I really miss people. It wasn't dentistry is great, but I miss talking to people. I miss seeing what their life is like. And the greatest thing about being a dentist is that most people see their dentist more often than they'll see a physician more often than they'll see anybody.
Right.
And I get to see their families grow. I get to see them grow. I get to see them have children. I get to see their children have children. And that's the blessing for me. I'm actually super blessed. I'm in a business where I can see families and people grow. And like I said, dentistry is the business, it's the art, but for me, it's mainly the people. And so I love life purely because I've been blessed with the life I've had. I've never taken this life for granted.
Wow. Well said, sir. And Dr. Min, the dancing dentist, and with a personality. And I mean, I would, if I wish I lived out there, I'd like to come try what's new about your technology for clean teeth, because I've had some interesting experiences with that. So that might be
Well,
awesome.
definitely, anytime you're in San Diego, you guys stop by anyway, say hi. So
All right,
for sure.
sir. I shall. Thank you so much for being on the show. Pleasure to get to know you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.